Hello fellow travellers, good morning. It's 5:15 in the morning. I woke up really early, just feeling, intense. So basically my consciousness has been pressing on the walls of the prison, the walls that are constructed by the consciousness virus, as I see it. And lately, whenever I sit down to do a video, I feel quite uncomfortable and frustrated because I find it increasingly difficult to put what I want to say into words. What I'm noticing in the general melee is a tendency for us to really get stuck, to really get trapped in the darkness, which happens very easily. In fact, it's almost our default position anyway, because we've been habituated to it. We've been habituated to think a certain way, to feel a certain way, to behave a certain way. And it's like a broken record. It goes around again and around again and around again. And what is coming up here for me is that it's time to break that pattern, because otherwise we're in danger of never actually getting anywhere. I'm a firm believer, another one of these sayings I don't particularly like, but again, language, I feel strongly that the only way out is through. Nobody can save you, nobody can save me. Nobody's going to show us the way or sort it out for us. And the out there, or the without, or whatever you want to call it, is full of polluted information. A lot of it's heavily influenced by television, by films, by books, such as the idea that we're living in some sort of simulated computer reality, which comes from the Matrix, and it may have similarities to that concept, but I don't believe that we actually live in a computer simulation. I don't believe that. That doesn't feel right. It's what I call a like. It is like this. We have trouble with anything that our minds cannot digest. We are used to having a very narrow perception of reality, very narrow, and very hijacked by trauma. And so anything that comes into our field of awareness that our minds cannot digest or understand or conceptualize has to then, we automatically take that concept that we cannot grasp and make it into something that we can grasp. And the minute we do that, we limit it and we trap ourselves. It comes down to cognitive dissonance. It triggers a reaction within us of fear, of I don't understand this, ergo I need to think of a way that I can make it so that I can understand it. But by doing that, you actually lose it and you turn it into something that it is not. Because we're here to do something. For me, I feel that this entire place has been hijacked, but it is not in and of itself evil. If you take the evil out of the equation, i.e. the mind virus, if you take that out of the equation, reset happens automatically, or you go home automatically. That is how I feel it to be. And no amount of raging against the machine is going to make that happen. It just won't. Because we're still trapped in the darkness. We're still trapped because we feel powerless. Otherwise we wouldn't be raging and banging our heads against the wall. We're still trapped and we don't realise it. There was this really good X-Files episode, I think it's season 4, can't remember, where they get stuck in this mushroom field, well, underground rather, and it's very heavy hallucinogenic, and it every time they think they've gotten out, because it gives them this narrative, this story, because it's the mushroom, the fungi, as it were, has a consciousness and wants to keep them trapped there because it secretes some sort of acid that basically consumes them. And so for it to keep feeding, it needs to convince Mulder and Scully that they've escaped, that they've gotten out. So it keeps doing that, and it's narrative after narrative after narrative until they realise, oh shit, we're still in a mushroom field. We're still in a mushroom field. Because whatever given story they experience, they start seeing these slimy green tendrils coming down and they realise, we're still stuck. And it's a bit like that here. Now the slimy green tendrils that we keep seeing is this self-punishment, this hatred and this rage directed outwards, which means it's also directed inwards to ourselves. This sense of desperation, this sense of we're trapped here, we're never going to get out, we're powerless, we're really worthless, we're inadequate, we're inferior, you know, that sort of thing. As in the dark side, the opposite of self-empowerment, which would be, I do not believe any of that. For me, it's a case of, I know that this thing we call reality has been hijacked through a consciousness virus, call it the fall. Once upon a time it was a beautiful, immaculate, magical place. I remember this. And now it is a fallen world, and this happened by degrees. It became more and more dark, more and more evil, more and more dysfunctional. And the more we believe that we are trapped, and the more we feed the darkness, the more we will regenerate it over and over again within ourselves and then outwards. And so everything we see is a reflection of what's going on inside of us, and that is what it's all about. Now these last few days have been quite intense, and I've had literally the hijack, the consciousness hijack really show itself to me in terms of like voices almost in my head, like a presence in my head, a feeling of despair, a feeling of rage, a feeling of just giving up. You're never going to get anywhere. You're so shit, you're so worthless. You can't even give up smoking. Your body's failing, that's really unfair and it's disgusting, and you're never going to be alright. Everything is fucked, evil always fucking wins. Right? And it's there, and then it comes out, and then what we do with that, we project it outwards, you know, so. And a lot of us are talking about NPCs, but what we then do is, spot the NPC, they're all NPCs, they're all disgusting. And I'm beginning to feel that to be part of the mind virus, because we can languish there, be there, and again it won't get us anywhere. The way I see it is that there are many people out there who are really good people. I know this because I've come across them over and over again. Really genuine, lovely people. They may not be awake, but they are sold because I can feel it. And then I come across some people, well, quite a few I suppose, that really don't resonate any kind of frequency at all. I don't know, to be fair, that means they're not sold. And it just, something isn't functioning within them. But perhaps it means something else. Perhaps it is something else. The point is that in and of itself perhaps is neither here nor there as pertaining to our individual consciousness, because we can get stuck there and think that if we really focus on that and work out what that is all about, we'll break free from this. But maybe that is not what it's all about, because yet again we're then focusing externally. It's important to notice things because if reality is a mirror and it shows us what's going on within us, then it is important to notice all the weirdness and the dysfunction and the fucked upness of this world. But to get stuck in it perpetually in a downward spiral of despair and hate and rage and projection, that's like playing ball then, and that isn't going to get us anywhere at all. The overriding energetic frequency that runs this world is, and I see it everywhere. I mean, a friend of mine was watching an episode of Ancient Aliens, and it just came to me so clearly that humanity thinks of itself as just a slave race. Oh, aliens came here many years ago and they created us as a slave race to mine gold, Sakurai Sitchin. When there's ample evidence to suggest extreme human antiquity, but it shows us where we're at in terms of consciousness. And if we think of ourselves as powerless, worthless slaves, if we give into that self-flagellation and self-punishment and believe all those stories of this is all there is, this is who you are, and many people do because it's very addictive, because it wants to keep us in the mushroom fields. We have to break out of that. And I think now is a very good and potent time to really look at what is happening in our consciousness in terms of what do we really believe. Beliefs are programs. So what has got me hijacked? What's got me stuck in a corner here? And what can I do to break out of that frozen position? Because you see, love is about recognizing that there is another way, that there is another type of consciousness which will support, which will nourish, which will empower, which will strengthen, which will bring clarity and project and what's the word? It will bring clarity. It's clear and it's fluid and it's good. And it says you are not a powerless victim. You have visions, you understand, you sense that you came from somewhere else. You sense that this hijack is here and it's anathema to you. And the only thing that can cure the virus that is evil is love. Love just is. It's always been here. You see it every time you see something good and beautiful. It's there. It is here, now. This place to me seems like a kind of, like a training place, like a training ground. If we are creator beings, and I think actually that there are no old souls here. I think this is the equivalent of, the sort of ages 7 to 12 in terms of soul development, perhaps. Because I think very old souls would be somewhere else doing far more interesting things. I think we're here because we have to learn how to take the raw materials of everything that we behold and everything that we feel and sense within us, the light and the dark, and to find the balance, to understand that we are not powerless victims of this dark, nefarious force which has got its cold, sweaty hands around our necks, you know, suffocating us. That's not it. We can turn that around, but we have to stop paying into this fucking programming. And we do it habitually. I know, because I do it myself. I fall for it over and over and over again. But you see this 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, 1 step forward process is actually designed, I think, to give us a very thorough education, a very thorough innate understanding of truth, of, I get it now. Those dark voices are not telling me the truth, but I believe it, and so I perpetually feel like shit, and so I perpetually manifest shit. It's a cycle, like a backwards cycle that humanity is trapped in. Animals, nature, the world is trapped in. And yet, the light is always there as well at various points. And when we seize that and go with that, utilizing everything we've learned along the way, then it shifts. There is a sense of greater clarity, a sense of more inner wholeness. I mean, I suppose we're quite early on in that, really, because all of us are still dealing with so much inner darkness, but it's all virus. It's a maze. It's like the mushroom field that Skulder and Muddy were stuck in, right? But every time you start to feel trapped, every time you start to feel hopeless and desperate and hate and full of hate and full of rage and full of this is happening to me and it isn't fair and it's evil, it's disgusting and it's all being done to me and I'm powerless, that's when you start to see those dirty yellow tendrils coming down and you realize that you're still trapped in the darkness, because that's not where it's at. Now, I'm not saying this is easy, like so many New Age people, well, not that they actually walk that path anyway, but it's like, oh, it's just love and light and it's so easy and I feel wonderful. Those are just people that haven't dealt with the darkness in any way, shape or form, and it sits there in their subconscious running the proverbial show, which is why so many of them are so toxic, you know. We have to address the darkness, because you cannot fight an enemy you do not understand. You know, The Art of War by Lao Tzu talks very much about know thine enemy, because if you know the enemy very, very well, then you know what you're dealing with. People like us, we know the enemy because we've encountered this over and over again. We get trapped over and over again. We get lost. We end up in a land of despair over and over again. And I get some comments from people that are perpetually stuck there, don't seem to understand how to get out. And to a large extent, yes, I'm one of them, because I feel that way too. It's very hard to hold on to this sense, this intuition, this gnosis that you have within you, that we are more than this. And that it's not a case to just aspire to grasp that, but to know that it's already within us. It is here, and it is a choice that we make in the moment, in the day, in the week, in the month, in the year, over and over and over again, to say no to these programs running the show, telling you that this is all there is, this is all you are. You're a victim. You're being tortured and tormented by evil creatures. You're never going to be okay. Your body is falling apart. You're growing old. Be afraid. Bad things are going to happen. It's interesting. These feelings are there, and it gets to the point where those feelings are just there and you cannot shift them. It doesn't happen overnight. Because you're purging, because the sickness, the virus, is being purged from our consciousness, from this world. But like in a mushroom field, it won't just let us go. That's not going to happen. It really will fight to the very bitter end for its survival. It wants to live. It wants to live. So we've got our work cut out for us. It's very hard going because it's so strong, isn't it? The despair especially, you can cut it with a knife. You're never going to be alright, you're not going to make it, everything is shit, it's all fucking shit and shit and shit. And that gives rise to so much antagonism toward oneself and towards other people, which doesn't serve the light in any shape or form at all. It just brings more virus. Well, it feeds the virus, so it grows bigger. Give it a finger and it will snap off your whole arm. That's been my experience. Self-nourishment by tuning in to the power and the magic of love is the only way. When you're struggling, when you feel like you're stuck in a maze and you can't find your way out, and you feel just overwhelmed with sorrow, with grief, with rage, with fear, with this overwhelming sense of you're never getting out of here, then you're in the mushroom field. I was there yesterday, boy oh boy. I mean, it could just be, I saw something on Facebook and it was just about vivisection labs and stuff, and it just really set me off, man. It was like, wow, how evil and how responsible we feel for all the dreadful things that happen in this world, and how we wish we could sort it all out. But you see, the inception point cannot lie out there, it can only lie within us, and that is where the shift is happening. And the shift isn't going from black to white in an instant, though within the great shift you have these little shifts like that. And it can happen in an instant, but it has to be a choice, a conscious, aware choice. That we can give into despair, or we can give into this knowing that, hey, I'm an alchemist. I can choose the light of this gnosis of love, of yes, I am worthy. This is not what I am. It's a virus that distorts my perception of everything. Again, this is really difficult to put into words, and it has to be, certainly to a large extent, it has to be experienced. You have to have been through that process to understand really what that is, what's going on there. The reason everything feels so dark, I feel, is because liberation is growing. It's a gradual process. Choice, free will, is a very important part of that. The dark side, the virus, wants to live, so it will resist, and it's resisting more now than, well, ever before, because it knows full well that its days are numbered. So it's really gonna resist. It's really gonna make a very loud noise, and it's gonna have you thinking. It's like, oh, I've done that again. I'm such a failure, and I can't seem to give up smoking. I'm never going to be able to give up smoking, but I don't even want to smoke, and I'm trapped in this horrible cycle. Little things like that, big things like that. Just the general state of our consciousness is habituated to feeling defeated, which causes great rage. But that comes from a sense of feeling like a victim and feeling powerless. That is then projected outwards. So we start to look at other people and judge them and say, you're disgusting, look at you. And whereas really what's warranted is more compassion. I'm not saying that we should condone anything like that, because obviously not. Evil is evil is evil. And we see and we know full well what's what with regards to that. But do we know it within ourselves? Because you see, we cannot address it out there. We can only address it in here. And adding to the poison will not serve anything. It won't do any good. I have no control over other people, nor do I want it. All I have control over is my own process, my own inner process, my own soul, my own free will. That is what I do have. And it's there for me to use. It's a tool. It's there for me to use. When I see evil going down in this world, when I see how people mindlessly destroy nature, hurt animals, hurt each other, hurt themselves, I have two choices. I can hate them and wish them harm, or I can feel compassion, because we have all known this. We've hurt ourselves, we've hurt other people, it's an entanglement because we live in a world, and so in a sense we are complicit to it all. Not because we chose to be complicit, it was already here when we entered it. But you see, every time we chuck things in our bin that will end up on some landfill somewhere, we are complicit, right? We commit evil every day because we're forced to, in a sense, because it is here, it is how the system works. And we do as much as we can to disentangle from that, but it's not that simple. You'll find that an eco lifestyle is very complex and very difficult and often very expensive. So there's this sense of guilt, and that's another trap. That, see, you've just chucked that this or that in the bin. You've just done this and you've just done that, and that was bad, and that's bad for the environment. You're guilty, you're bad. But you see, we didn't make the world this way. We can only do the best that we can. And that is the point. So instead of focusing on all the things that we perceive ourselves to have gotten wrong, we need to start to focus on the things that we've gotten right, because that is where our strength lies. That's how we empower ourselves. So grab a pen and paper and write down every day or every week all the things that you did get right, all the little triumphs and all the victories that you have had. You see? Because that's what matters. If we perennially focus on evil, it will be to our detriment. We need to now also focus on that which is positive and nourishing and wholesome. It is here. It is out there too. Let's notice it and let's give it our attention, because it's where our power lies. We are powerful creator beings. Consciousness is a creating tool. It's what we are at our essence. In our essence is what we are. We're not powerless prisoners of evil, of darkness. We are here to reset that. We are here to do that. And I don't think it's a case of pulling the plug. I think it's a case of, yes, pulling the plug on the virus which hijacks everything. And when that plug is pulled, possibly by degrees, we will start to see the shift happen. And as it happens within, it will manifest on the without. And it depends on whatever level of consciousness you exist on. So for people with very little consciousness, people that most of us would, I suppose, refer to as NPCs, they just exist on that level, doing the same thing over and over again, the broken record. But it's about elevating and transcending that. And the reset is not, like some people would have you believe, in the mundane. It's not a brick and mortar thing. Reality is far more mystical and mysterious than that. So when you come across these people that say, well, in about 70 years we're going to go into another golden age, where apparently we still have to die and we still have to pay taxes, whatever, you know, that's not it. The pure, the free reality, free from the virus, is here. But we cannot see it or experience it because we have been hijacked. Our consciousness is still struggling. There is light, there is dark, but the dark senses that the light is growing and it's fighting back, snapping, snarling. And so temporarily we feel like, oh shit, it's darkness, it's all there is, it's all there is. But the choice is, no, that is the illusion, that is the illusion, that is the virus, that is the sickness, and it's the mushroom field, you see. So, because it wouldn't surprise me at all if, when the work is done properly, when the virus is cleared out, we find ourselves in a completely different environment, in a completely different reality. We will have transcended this sludge. You see, because the poison, the poison within us, the virus within us, is what the virus external is connected to. And so it generates this. It's as if we're wearing goggles, right, that make us see, experience, feel reality like this, as it is here now. Because the virus, the goggle, the virus, the goggles, right, this is how it is. This is what we see, this is what we experience. And then it clears, the vision clears. And by degrees, things begin to change. It's like the Mandela effect. Because if you look at reality, it doesn't even make sense. How is it possible to have the remnants of trees that were so enormous they couldn't possibly have existed on this planet, right? Or it's all these discarnate pieces of a giant puzzle that have all been chucked, dislodged and chucked and shaken up and just chucked down again. Reality, if you really dig into it, as I have for many years, doesn't actually even make sense. It's like there is no linear, it's like this happened and then this happened and then this happened. That is not what took place here, not at all. Not at all. It's far more mysterious than that. It's going from existing in a state of balance and harmony, which we would now see as magic, but it's not magic. That was the natural state of being. And then something happens. I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't know why, but it happens, the fall, whatever. Consciousness became infected and began to dysfunction. Perhaps not so much at first, but a little bit. And so reality became a bit more wonky. And it became more infected because it does that. It attracts more. What's the word again? Oh man. You know, it grows basically. It gives birth to itself. So then it became more dysfunctional and more dark and so forth and so on. More and more and more and more. And things began to disappear and other things entered. the multiverse reality, call it what you will, was broken up and disassembled and reassembled, but all wrong, and our perception of reality became very narrow, so we no longer understand, our minds simply don't understand the mystical and the mysterious. We have massive cognitive dissonance. It's like, no, I don't understand. How can that be true? That can't, it doesn't work that way, because first you have to have 2 plus 2 is 4, and 4 plus 9 cannot be 2, and you see, it's all very tortuous because it's very narrow and it's very limited, and it's stupid. It's very stupid. The hijacked consciousness is not intelligent at all. It has no imagination, and it's you see. But the more we awaken, the more we realize that, hey, we start to be able to grasp concepts that are really far out there. We can do that because our consciousness is somewhat less hijacked and more free, and we can, you see, it begins to expand, and our understanding of what is possible begins to expand as well. Reality is not one thing. Reality can be whatever we imagine it to be, but it very much depends on a consciousness that is now being liberated from this virus, so that we can expand and our perception expands. So it isn't bricks and mortar, mundane reality. It's mundane reality programming. It isn't that at all. So if we move this there, then it will get a little bit better. No. That's very clunky and it's bullshit. The reset is something magical. And I think it's a very individual thing. I do believe that. And this might actually explain some of the people that we now see as NPCs, because maybe their actual soul essence, i.e. them, maybe they've transcended. Maybe they, in some reality, they woke up and did the work and broke out. And they are now experiencing the reset. Maybe they're home again. You get what I'm saying? And so there's still an imprint of them left here, but it comes across as something that is soulless and empty because they have left. I don't know, that's just an idea I had. No idea if that's true, of course. Because people will be leaving. They do. When they have reached a certain level of freedom, of clear, as it were, they can transcend. And that's what it's all about, I reckon. Again, I could be wrong. These are just musings, you know, but that's what I feel. So it's what we embrace and what we allow ourselves to be embraced by, even through the difficult times of purging up all that crap that inevitably just gets in the way. And you think this is never going to end. Again, this is the dark trap. Oh, this is never going to end, you know. You're just being tortured here. Oh, yeah. But in fact, it's a clearing process. I know this because, yes, for years now, 4 years at least, I've been going through, whoa, and I have suffered, and it's been absolutely horrendous, but I have, my perception, my awareness has expanded exponentially, it has. Which then gives rise to more purgings and more clearings. And then your perception expands yet again. That is part of the process, it seems. That's how it is. Of course, the dark side will come in there and say, oh, you see, you're just perpetually suffering. You're not getting anywhere. This isn't going anywhere. You're just being tortured. But that isn't true, because if that were true, then there would not be any perception expansion. Our consciousness would just be, there just wouldn't be any of that. We wouldn't get a sense of the mysterious, the mystical, the infinite creativity that is all that is, and the possibilities that lie here for us. We wouldn't have that at all. We would be exactly the same day in, day out, and nothing would change. There's lots of things that we want to have changed by now, right? Obviously, and that haven't changed. But again, we can focus on that and then take that as a sign that we're all fucked and evil always wins and see nothing is happening. Or we can step back and say, right, hold on a minute, right, okay, what have I gained? What has happened that is good? And you'll find that there is stuff there. Consciousness expansion, very much so. Understanding and a sense of the mysteriousness of it all. Compassion, free will, choice, understanding, awareness, gnosis, it's all there, it's all there. But again, we live in a world that demands instant gratification at all times. And it's got to be big and bombastic. Healing should happen just like that, and I should have the perfect body here, now. That sort of shit. Well, I don't think that's how it works. It's far more subtle than that, and it does require our constant work, our constant input, our constant free will, saying, okay, yes, I'm going to stay the course and I'm not going to give up. And I'm not going to believe all this nefarious, mind-torturous shit telling me that I'm worthless and powerless and stuck and that it's all doomed and we're all fucking finished and we're all like lemmings heading for the cliff. Because if we give in to that, that is what we will get. Oh, I feel that. It is mysterious. Yes, it is somewhat elusive. We're still dealing with a lot of entanglements here. We are. And then of course we get the catalysts, right? All the shit that happens that makes you think, I'm being targeted yet again, tormented and tortured. But when you look back, you think, oh wow, I went to absolute hell when that happened. But you know what? I've gained this and that. We do gain, it affects our consciousness. And consciousness is the key to it all, ultimately. It really, really is. And so that is where the battle lies. It's that choice that we have to make again and again, to choose that, the power of love. That's where it's at. Love is compassion, love is patient, love is kind, love is courageous, love is discernment, love is truth, speaking truth, such as we see it at any given time. Love is inspired action. But love has the wisdom to know that we do not control the external to any great degree. That what we have here, that we do control, I don't like that word really, control, that we can take part in, that we are a part of, that is being born here, is our own consciousness, healing from a virus, from a sickness. That is real. That we are able to see and experience beauty despite all the darkness in this world. That we are able to seed our wisdom and our love and our compassion into this world. That we are able to care, with discernment, not as people pleasers, but as I am here now and this feels like the right thing to do. There are many people and animals in great distress, and I for one believe in helping out and giving my love and my compassion to those beings. I think that's good. But ultimately, all of that love and all of that compassion is here for us to receive our own wounded self, to receive it, to say, I understand you, I understand why you're mad with grief, with sorrow, I understand why you're snarling and clawing at yourself, because the sheer torment has driven you mad. We are mad, in a way, you see, because of it all. And when we face that within ourselves, we immediately think it's psychic attack, but it isn't really. It's us. It's here. It's within us. It's our own shadow which has gone mad with the pain and the grief and the sorrow and the rage, why me, and all of that. Yeah. So that requires our attention and our compassion very much. Beating ourselves up, punishing ourselves isn't going to get us anywhere. Yet, oh boy, I see this as being so big in this world, everywhere, everywhere. That is the virus, because by doing that, it creates more darkness. One will never overcome any addiction or any internal torment by beating the hell out of it. That just feeds the monkey. It really does. Anyway, I think I'll call it a day there, because I've been rambling on for quite some time. But Mercury is retrograde, and yet again, I don't know whether the fact that everybody talks about Mercury going retrograde, ergo we experience Mercury going retrograde. Either way, I don't really care. In my view, it's a good time to really go within and to really look at that which needs purging and that which needs our attention and our compassion. The world out there, it is what it is for what it is at the moment, and yeah, just whatever. Focus on the within, go within. And whatever you experience externally that causes intense emotions, then go back in and ask, what's going on here? What's the symbiosis here? What am I meant to pay attention to? What needs my love? What needs my compassion? And carry yourselves. I'm saying that to myself here as well, obviously, because I'm just as much in need of that as anyone else. I struggle with this just as much as everyone else. More so than quite a few, I would say, in fact. But you see, it's those of us who truly know the darkness, for we have wandered down the darkest, deepest caverns within our being, have the greatest impetus for transcendence and reset. I do believe that. So I wish you all a really good weekend. It is Friday, isn't it? Yeah. Oh God, days. What days? Days? What is? What? Time? What's that? I mean, that's another thing you'll find is time is not what it used to be, and everything is shifting. Mandela effect, styly stuff is happening all the time now, and it's disconcerting, but at the same time, to me, it's a really good sign that shit is going on, shit is happening, and I think it's a good sign, I do. So, and synchronicity, which is big, and again, I take great courage from that. It helps me a great deal, it makes me feel good. So yeah, instead of seeing the darkness and the demons everywhere, let's look for those points of light, and let's take sustenance from that. I say that to myself, and yeah, that's it. Okay, people, take care.